Joining us now is Coulter. So, Ann, what's your plan for this Thursday?
Oh, I'm speaking at Berkeley. You should come.
But specifically, where are you going to go, and where are you going to talk, and are you concerned at all about your safety?
Well, I give a lot of college speeches, and the way I usually do it is I just work on the speech, get a good night's sleep, show up on time, and I let other people worry about the venue, security, and that's what I'm kind of planning on doing this time, though I understand there's been a little blowback. We had to bring suit today to request that Berkeley.
What do you hope to accomplish with that lawsuit?
An appropriate place to speak.
I'm sorry, I was talking
over Berkeley to give me a safe.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Appropriate place to speak.
And do you at this point have an actual location? Have they told you where you are going to speak?
I don't think so.
Are you just going to get up with
I'm hoping it'll be big and nice.
Well,
I'm going to speak at Berkeley, so I don't know if I have to. As long as there are no longer any time restrictions on it. They've been putting restriction on it, and then I kept accepting them all. I really just wanted to give my speech, so then they canceled it outright. But I'm still planning on giving my speech. Now I don't have to abide. I mean, if they won't provide a venue, I won't have to abide by those restrictions. I could give it at a normal time when students are available. And I don't know, I guess it could be by a megaphone from Sproul Hall, but I'm planning on giving my speech.
I had read that you said you were going to bring your own security. Is that true?
Well, I always travel with a security team to college speeches. I hear they've gotten a little friskier than usual, so definitely bringing it to this college. But I mean, this has been true for years. For years, conservative speakers have been attacked on campus. Bill Kristol, David Horowitz, myself. I mean, physically attacked. So it's been, Pat Buchanan, it's been sort of standard operating procedure for conservatives to show up with some security of their own on college campuses. And recently, I mean, as Berkeley surely knows, it's happened a few times just in the last couple of months. So they are well on notice that there can be violence. And I assume the same way I will be doing my job, they will be doing their jobs and providing a safe and secure location for my speech.
Well, we saw what happened when Milo Yiannopoulos came to Cal. There was violence. They were throwing paint on people, and they ended up canceling the speech because they were concerned about safety. Chances are when you come up on Thursday, it's going to turn into a circus. There will be protesters. There could be violence. Your thoughts on that?
Well, two things. For one thing, especially hateful speech is protected by the First Amendment. Most of the cases that go before the courts, and this is well-trod area, the law is very, very clear, most of them involve people burning flags, Nazis marching, skinheads. I don't think Milo is that, but I'm not even Milo. I mean, for Pete's sake, I'm a 12-time New York Times best-selling author. I've given probably hundreds of college speeches, certainly more than 100. I'd say I give about 10 a year, and I've been doing it for a decade now. It's not that difficult a proposition to pull off, to arrange a room for a 90-minute speech. It's not like I'm asking to do it from outer space or beneath the sea. And because of what happened to Milo and what happened to these various other speakers speaking in favor of Trump, for example, that was last weekend, I guess. I would guess that the administration is well on notice that this can happen, and the Berkeley police are well on notice. So I assume they'll take appropriate action.
Is it up to them to protect you? That's one of the things that Cal has said and that the city of Berkeley has said is, look, there have been legitimate threats. We are very concerned about safety. What are they supposed to do?
Well, I mean, we could rearrange things where I'm the chief of police or the chancellor of the schools, and I'll do the policing, and they could give the speech. In fact, I bet you a cop could give a very good speech on immigration if he were allowed to speak honestly. And I think I could do a pretty good job doing the policing. But my general approach, and I think this would be a good lesson for life, is that I think people should do their own jobs. So I give the speech, the police do the protecting, the schools arrange the room. I think that it just works better in life if people do their actual jobs.
What is it specifically that you're going to talk about on Thursday?
Immigration, the topic of my second to last New York Times bestseller, my 11th, #2 on the New York Times list. Adios, America, the left's plan to turn our country into a third world hellhole. It's a blockbuster.
You know, that you bring up something that I think is an interesting point, and that is that right now it feels like the country is more divided than at any time since the Vietnam War. And what it feels like to me is I see people on the extreme left and I see people on the extreme right, and all they do is blame the other side. I don't see anybody coming together. I don't see anybody say, how can we work together? How can we come up with a compromise? How can we make this a better country for all of us? Instead, it's just blaming, yelling, and no one, it seems, is willing to listen. Your thoughts?
Yes, I think that's a great point. I mean, that's why the college Republicans obviously were one of the groups that invited me, but it keeps being dropped from all these stories. I believe the group that spearheaded this idea is a group called Bridge Cal, and they're utterly nonpartisan. They aren't Republicans. They're in favor of dialogue. And so their idea is, let's get two sides of the immigration debate. Well, last week, I think it was last week, it may have been the week before, the pro mass immigration speaker spoke. She worked for, I think it was the, Clinton administration, Obama administration. But she gave her speech at a regular time, 7 p.m. That was the first part of this debate. Now I'm the second part.
Giving the other side of
immigration. So I'm looking forward to it. Of immigration, yes.
And one of the things that I've heard from people is they say that you should not be allowed to speak because it's not free speech in this case, it's hate speech, that what you talk about is hate speech.
Well, there's really no legal category of hate speech, and to the extent there is, and I don't engage in hate speech, but whatever that amorphous term describes, but if it were hate speech, that's what all the Supreme Court cases are about. I mean, the idea is, behind our First Amendment is that in the battle of ideas, the truth will come out. And I would add at this point, I mean, again, I don't engage in hate speech. I write best-selling books. I give talks all the time. But I also happen to, just a little footnote, I happen to love question and answer period. And as I pointed out before in one of my New York Times bestsellers, I described my college speeches, since this is what I do a lot. At the better schools, Harvard, Yale, places like Berkeley, to be honest with you, you never have to worry about violence at places like that because the kids want to challenge you in question and answer. And it's fun and it's interesting. And, I learn things, they learn things. I like a long question and answer period. It tended to, at least until recently, it tended to be, and I don't think this is Berkeley students engaging in any of this violent nonsense that we've heard about. It tends to be not students at places like Berkeley who, deprived of the ability of speech, can only throw things.
And I wanted to read you something that Bernie Sanders said today. He said, obviously, Ann Coulter's outrageous, to my mind, off the wall, but people have a right to give their 2 cents worth, to give a speech without fear of violence and intimidation. Resorting to violence and threats to violence is a sign of intellectual weakness, and it makes liberals look bad in the eyes of the world. What are you afraid of? Her ideas? Ask her hard questions. Confront her intellectually. Booing people down and intimidating people or shutting down events, I don't think that works in any way.
Yes. Other than the part about my ideas being outrageous, I agree with every syllable of that. And I would have thought, up until recently, every American would say that. I would also just, like to footnote that part about my outrageous ideas. I bet you Bernie Sanders has never read one of my smash bestseller books.
But it is nice to see there that Bernie Sanders,
yes,
someone on the complete opposite side, is saying, let her speak. Ask her hard questions. That's where we get the
Well,
dialogue.
Yes, and I'd also say in that regard, that's a great statement, but he's far from alone. I mean, Bill Maher, the girls on The View, Chris Matthews, Margaret Carlson, their panels, pretty much the entire left wing outside of college campuses. It shows you how off the rails our college campuses have gone. They've become so insular, so cocooned. If there's any place, I mean, just in the abstract, colleges are places where there is supposed to be free dialogue. But even more than that, I think at this particular moment in time, oh my gosh, do colleges need to hear the other side. They seem to have no idea that someone like Bernie Sanders would say something like this.
Although, Ann, on the flip side, some people would say Ann Coulter is all about Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter wants to promote Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter wants to come here, and she's going to come here now on Thursday, and she's going to be a rabble-rouser, and she's going to try to incite people.
Well, I know people like to say that. They always like to say that. It could not be... I mean, in some sense, I write books. I'm trying to change people's minds about things. So, I mean, there's a promotional aspect to anyone who cares about public policy. I mean, Winston Churchill was promoting himself with that "we will fight on the beaches" speech. So, on one hand, it's kind of a cliched complaint. But in particular, the idea that I'm trying to get publicity off of this event could not be further from the truth on the facts. I mean, for one thing, you don't want to give me publicity? I have an idea. Don't shut down my speech. Point two, the actual facts of how this case has progressed. I mean, as Berkeley was loading up these kids with requirements for my speech, it has to be in the daytime, only students can come, we won't tell you where it's going to be. They kept saying, the student group sponsoring me kept saying, no, this is outrageous, Ann. Let's just pull out, issue a press release saying that they're violating your First Amendment rights or our First Amendment rights. And I said, no, I really just want to give the speech. No press release. I just kept saying, okay, whatever requirements they put on my speech. I said, okay. And then the next thing I know, one morning last week, I wake up and Berkeley's gone ahead and canceled it anyway. So I think we know why they were loading up my speech with those requirements. They were trying to force us to cancel, but we didn't. So they leapt ahead and preemptively canceled it unilaterally. And I still didn't. I said, no press release. I'm going to call Jerry Brown. He's an old lefty like Bernie Sanders. I think he will see the outrageousness of this. Let's just quietly, make some phone calls and get them to say I can give a speech. They're the ones, Berkeley administrators, leaked the cancellation of my speech to the San Francisco Chronicle. So at that point, yeah, I responded. I was invited to give a speech. I have a contract to give a speech. I'm giving a speech.
Did you call Governor Brown? And if so, what did he say?
Well, I know some people who works for him, and I immediately, that morning, he was the first person I called, and he said, I think you're right. I think this is outrageous, and this is obviously a lefty who had worked for him. He said, he said, sorry, I just got a new iPhone, so I can't give you the number until later tonight. So by the time he finally got back to me with a number of someone I could call in Governor Brown's office, it was too late. The whole thing had started. We had had a lawyer, and we're sending them letters. So, I mean, I think Governor Brown knows what's going on, and I wish he'd get involved, but it's too late for a quiet resolution since Berkeley administrators already leaked the story to the San Francisco Chronicle.
And we'll see you on Thursday. Any final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
It's going to be a great speech. I'm going to get back and polish it up right now, and you should come and ask lots of good questions.
Ann Coulter, thank you.
Thank you.